The grand ballroom of the city's most luxurious hotel sparkled with crystal chandeliers and polished marble floors. Tonight was the night of the annual charity gala, an event where the richest people in town gathered to show their generosity, their latest fashions, and sometimes their pride. The air was filled with soft laughter, the clinking of glasses, and the occasional flash of cameras capturing every elegant moment. Among the crowd of well-dressed guests stood 17-year-old Caleb. Unlike the others, his clothes were simple and neat but lacked the shimmer and style that filled the room. His dark shoes were polished, his shirt clean, but there was nothing expensive about his outfit. He stood quietly near the wall, his hands clasped nervously in front of him. He looked around, wide-eyed, unsure if he truly belonged in this world of glitter and gold. Caleb wasn't supposed to be here. A family friend had originally been invited but couldn't make it, so she handed Caleb her invitation, hoping he would use the chance to see a different side of life. He was grateful but felt out of place, like a small boat in a vast ocean of wealth and luxury. This gala wasn't just a party, it was a place where appearances mattered more than kindness, and Caleb, with his humble clothes and quiet heart, was about to find out just how sharply those appearances could cut. Caleb tried to blend into the background, hoping no one would notice him. He wandered slowly toward the corner of the room, where paintings were displayed for auction. He admired the art quietly, fascinated by the colors and stories each piece seemed to tell. Suddenly, a sharp voice broke through the chatter. "Excuse me, young man," said a woman standing nearby. She was tall and dressed in a sparkling gown, her jewelry flashing under the lights. Her name was Vanessa Langford, one of the richest women in the city, known for her sharp tongue and sharper attitude. Vanessa looked Caleb up and down with a sneer. "Are you one of the waiters?" she asked loudly, making sure others around could hear. Caleb blinked, surprised. "No ma'am," he said politely, trying to keep his voice calm. "I'm here as a guest." Vanessa laughed, a cold mocking sound. "A guest? At this kind of event? What, did someone lose their invitation and hand it off to you? You don't look like you belong here." Some guests nearby chuckled quietly, while others looked away, uncomfortable. Caleb felt heat rush to his face. His hands clenched into fists at his sides, but he didn't answer. Instead he nodded slowly and said, "I'm here to support the cause." Vanessa's smile twisted into a cruel grin. "Well, bless your heart," she said sarcastically. "Just don't get in the way of the real guests, okay?" Caleb took a deep breath and turned away. His heart pounded, but he kept his head high. He knew he didn't have fancy clothes or a famous name, but he had something more important. A reason to be here. Even in a room full of gold and glitter, he refused to be invisible. Caleb found a quiet corner away from the crowd and took a moment to steady his breathing. The insult still stung, but his mind drifted to the life he had left behind, far from this sparkling ballroom. At home, Caleb lived with his grandmother in a small apartment filled with worn furniture and faded memories. His parents had passed away when he was just 12 years old, leaving him to grow up faster than most kids his age. His grandmother worked long hours cleaning offices to keep food on the table and a roof over their heads. Despite the hardships, Caleb had never lost hope. He was a bright student who spent hours at the local library, teaching himself about science and technology. His favorite project was a small device he invented, a tool that could help blind people read printed text by turning words into sounds. Not long ago, Caleb had entered a city-wide tech competition. His invention impressed the judges, and he won first prize, a large sum of money and an offer from a tech company to develop his device further. The prize money was life-changing for Caleb and his grandmother, but no one at the gala knew about it. Caleb kept his success quiet. He didn't want to brag or seem different. He simply wanted to help people, especially those who, like him, faced challenges others couldn't understand. Now standing in the ballroom, surrounded by wealth and luxury, Caleb wondered how different his life might have been if he'd been born into a rich family. But deep down, he believed that kindness and courage mattered more than money or status. The night wore on, and Vanessa didn't stop. She seemed determined to make Caleb the center of her cruel amusement. As Caleb moved toward the refreshments table, Vanessa called out, Careful, don't spill anything. We wouldn't want the poor boy to ruin his nicest clothes. Some guests glanced over, their smiles fading into uncomfortable silence. Caleb felt every eye on him, judging him, but he refused to let them see how much it hurt. Later Vanessa approached him again. You know, she said with a sneer, it's funny how charity events always have these little miracles, kids like you who show up and expect the world to bend for them. But really you should just be grateful for the crumbs. Caleb took a slow breath. I'm here because I believe in helping people, he said quietly. Vanessa laughed, loud and harsh. Helping people, honey, you don't even belong here. People like you just remind me why the world is the way it is. A kind older woman named Miss Evelyn, sitting nearby, stood up softly. Vanessa, that's enough. Caleb is here to support the cause, just like the rest of us. Vanessa rolled her eyes and turned away, smirking. The room felt colder, the smiles more forced. Caleb wished the night would end. He wanted to leave but stayed because he knew this was bigger than him. This was about showing that kindness and strength didn't come from money or status. And even though Vanessa tried to break him with her words, Caleb stood tall, quiet, but unshaken. As the evening moved on, the auction began. Guests eagerly raised their paddles to bid on expensive paintings, rare jewelry, and luxury vacations, all to raise money for the charity. Caleb stood at the side, watching quietly. Then, unexpectedly, he stepped forward. The room hushed as all eyes turned toward him. The host raised an eyebrow, surprised to see someone like Caleb approach the microphone. Do you have something you'd like to share? He asked. Caleb took a deep breath and held up a sealed envelope. Yes, I do. I want to make a donation to the charity. A few people laughed softly, including Vanessa, who whispered, "How cute. The poor boy thinks he can give money here." The host carefully opened the envelope and pulled out a check. The amount was written in large, bold numbers, $100,000. Gasps echoed across the room, the chatter stopped. Caleb's voice was steady as he explained, "This money is from a prize I won for a device I invented. It helps blind people read printed words by turning them into sound." He looked around the room. "I want to give back, because someone once believed in me when no one else did, my mom. She taught me that real kindness means helping others, no matter who you are or where you come from." Vanessa's confident smile vanished. Her eyes widened in shock, and she turned away, unable to speak. The guests stared at Caleb, a new respect filling the air. Cameras flashed again, this time capturing a moment of true generosity. Miss Evelyn quietly said, "Sometimes the smallest packages hold the greatest gifts." Caleb stepped back, his heart pounding, not from nerves but from pride. He hadn't come to prove anyone wrong with words. Instead, he had shown them with actions. The room was silent for a long moment after Caleb's announcement. Then slowly applause began to build, quiet at first, then louder, as more people realized the meaning behind his gift. Vanessa sat frozen, her face pale and tight. The confident woman who had mocked Caleb all night now looked small and powerless. She avoided eye contact, as whispers spread through the crowd about her rude behavior. Reporters nearby quickly moved in, eager to ask Caleb questions. One asked how he managed to create such an important invention at such a young age. Another asked what motivated him to donate so much money. Caleb answered with quiet confidence, "I just wanted to help people who don't have a voice. My invention is a way to give them one." Miss Evelyn came over to Caleb and smiled warmly. "You handled yourself with grace. You showed everyone that true value isn't in clothes or money, but in heart." Vanessa left the room shortly after, her head down. It was clear she had been humbled. Some guests whispered that she might lose influence in future charity events if she continued to judge people so harshly. Meanwhile, Caleb became the unexpected star of the night, not because of wealth or fame, but because of his courage and generosity. As the gala ended, people spoke in low voices about the lesson Caleb had taught them: never judge someone by how they look, or where they come from. Caleb quietly slipped out, a small smile on his face. He knew he hadn't just donated money, he had changed minds. As the gala came to a close, and the guests began to leave, the night's events lingered in the air like a gentle breeze. Caleb's quiet courage had shaken the room, reminding everyone of a simple truth: appearances can be deceiving. The rich woman who had insulted him had judged him by his clothes, his quietness, and his youth. But Caleb's actions had shown that true worth isn't measured by wealth or status, it's measured by kindness, courage, and the desire to make the world better. Outside the hotel, Caleb stepped into the cool night air. The city lights twinkled around him, but for the first time in a long while, he felt like he belonged, not because of money or fame, but because of who he was. The charity gala was supposed to be a night for giving, yet, it became a night of learning, where many realized that kindness and generosity come from the heart, not the wallet. And Caleb, he didn't need applause or praise. His greatest reward was knowing he had stayed true to himself, and had shown everyone else that sometimes, the richest gifts come from the humblest places.